Hi guys, Khalid from Cricket Fanatic magazine, and again with another special guest. I'm here with Warren Whiteley. You guys will know him. He's in his kit. I should have actually worn my top. I actually got a top for my birthday. I'm a big fan of Spider-Man, so that's the only reason I got the line top. I'm a big Stormers fan. So
Can't be the only reason, man. Come
on. So Warren, let's start with lockdown. First, okay, wait. I have to obviously answer the questions because people are going to ask, what's up with the apron, etc.
So I've just done like a cook-off with Izelle. So she's a lifestyle chef, and the Lions rugby union ladies, the marketing ladies, they asked me just to do a quick cook-off with her. So we've just made a quiche. I can hold it up for you.
Yeah.
Didn't flop. The kids were involved. And
oh, looks good.
There it is there, yeah. So it's like avo and spinach and mushrooms. And at least it didn't flop, eh? So pretty stoked. It came out the oven, and we survived the ordeal. Kids involved, everything. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Bloody awesome. So I always start off the show asking about the lockdown, what you've been doing during lockdown, how you've been keeping fit, etc. And obviously, you being a rugby player, it will be a different type of conditioning. But how have you been keeping fit and keeping sane in a lockdown, of course?
Yeah, so Khalid, I must say, like our conditioning coach has been amazing. There was a bit of a rush, to get gym equipment to everyone. So we, managed to get rowers and watt bikes, and everyone got a dumbbell or two to at least train during this period. So it was a bit chaotic, when we first heard that there was going to be a lockdown. But every single player managed to get some form of cardio equipment and some form of dumbbell or weights, and it's been great. I mean, we've been getting programs. All the players have got programs. There's one or two apps as well, which is pretty cool. The guys have been challenging themselves on different things, which is quite cool. I think if you look at Courtnall's profile, you'll see a couple of those things there. And yeah, just working out whatever's possible for you. I think everyone's circumstances are different, which makes it challenging conditioning wise. I mean, some people on flats. I mean, some people have a bit of space, and then other people have a lot of space. So we got a couple guys staying on the farm, and I mean, they've got phenomenal space, so they can just pretty much carry on as normal. But with guys that are in apartments, it's quite challenging. So there've been programs sent out to us that have been modified and specifically made for those individuals. So it's been great. I think what's most challenging for the players is probably not knowing when we are going to head back or when we will be able to play. So it's difficult to motivate yourself. The first, I think, 2 weeks we found, it was easy, but when it got down to about a month, I think it got difficult. You could see the players weren't as motivated as before. So it is challenging, and we've been having a lot of Zoom calls with the players, connecting with them and getting a lot of input from them as well. I think it's important that it's from the coaches and the players, we're all on the same page, and mental health is also important during this time.
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little bit into your journey before we get to the cricket side of things. So I don't know if you don't mind. So can maybe give me talk a little bit about your journey as a rugby player, as a sportsman at school, etc., and the move from there to provincial levels.
Yeah, so I guess I started playing at a very young age. I really loved all sport. I started playing rugby when I was 6 years old. I grew up in Durban on the Bluff, and I went to a small school there called Dirkie Huys, a little Afrikaans school, and I just absolutely love sport. Cricket, rugby, athletics, swimming, pretty much anything, baseball, softball, any sport I loved. And went to Glenwood High School, and yeah, I guess I had a dream of playing for the Sharks or Natal or the Banana Boys, as they were known back in the day. My dad had this really cool white shirt with a banana on it, and they were called the Banana Boys, and he had these DVDs of the great Natal sides of the 90s. So I used to watch, or not DVDs, sorry, tapes. What am I saying? They were tapes. So I used to watch them, and that was a massive dream of mine, is actually to play for Natal before actually the Springboks. I think at that time I just didn't have the confidence to imagine myself playing for the Springboks. I think that dream was out of reach for me at that age. I just wanted to play for Natal, and Henry Honeyball was my hero. And I love sport. My dad, obviously loves sport as well. So we would watch cricket and rugby and F1. He's a big F1 fan as well. So spend a lot of time watching Formula One and motor racing. So sport was just, it was in our household pretty much since I was a little boy. And the dream to become a professional probably only happened a bit later in my life when I started generating enough confidence. I really struggled with confidence, in my career, and gradually grew in confidence. And probably the biggest moment was when I represented South Africa for the first time, and that was for the Blitzboks. And that was a huge moment for me in 2012, representing them. And I think that's when the spark and the confidence in me really started brewing, and a belief that I could, perhaps play for the Springboks. Because at that stage, I think I was 24 years old, and I was a bit of a late developer. And that's when I really started believing in myself, and I started thinking, maybe I can play for the Springboks one day. I don't know. Maybe this could be something that I could do. Yeah.
Obviously between sevens rugby and obviously 15-man rugby, it's completely different conditioning, completely different mindset, etc. Just give me some of the differences between the two, and how you condition differently and had to change your style, obviously, before you started playing 15 for the Springboks, of course.
Yeah, so shortly, you got to be a lot fitter to play sevens. So naturally, as a forward, it's generally a bit more challenging going into the seven setup. And because I had a background of athletics and cross country, it was a bit easier for me to adapt, but it was still challenging. And my respect for the sevens players grew immensely. Those guys, the professionalism and the way they train is just second to none. I can't tell you. They should get paid a lot more. I can promise you that. They're just on another level. And Paul True was the coach when I started, and I think at that time it was just brilliant for me to get into that setup and really learn what being a professional is all about. After making my debut, then a year later I went to the Commonwealth Games, which was also phenomenal. And Neil Powell was the coach, and he was also just a phenomenal coach. So I really, really enjoyed my time there. It's challenging. There's a big difference. So the fitness is probably the biggest difference. And, you do a lot of high-speed running. So compared to 15-man, you're almost idling, if I can put it that way. You're on the freeway sitting at about 120, 128, idling along, where at sevens, you are pretty much going 180. You got bursts of going 180 and then kind of stops for a couple seconds and then outbursts again. So sevens is very, very challenging. And I think I'm very, very grateful I got that opportunity earlier enough in my career that it could develop me and almost be act as a springboard in my 15s career going forward.
Yeah. And obviously you were captain for the Lions in multiple seasons, taking them to finals. Of course, you captained the Springboks as well. Now, captaincy as a whole, I think that there are some common trends between sports. So it doesn't really matter if it's rugby, cricket, soccer, whatever it is. There's some common trends. Talk to me about your mindset in captaincy and what made you such a successful captain of formats like that, for example, different international and provincial, and of course, playing for the Lions as well.
Yeah, sheesh. I'm not really sure. I think maybe you should ask the guys I captain. It's difficult for me to answer that. I think, look, I'm an introvert, so I'm introverted. And growing up at school, I probably didn't believe I could be a captain, because I wasn't loud or outgoing, or I wasn't the first one to put up my hand or comment. And it took me a long time to really get the confidence to actually just put up a hand and start talking and leading. And the first time I captained a side was actually the first team at school. That was the first time. And by that time I was already, 17 years old. And I absolutely loved it. I mean, for me at that stage, I wasn't, and I don't think throughout my career, I probably talk a bit less than most leaders, but I like to lead through my actions. I like to have relationships with players. I really enjoy that side of leadership, is getting to know the people around you and the personalities around you and connecting to those people from different backgrounds, different personalities, and just having one common goal and working towards that goal. And I really love that part. And I don't think leadership is something that you're born with. I really believe it's something you can grow within and you can actually develop as a leader, as an individual within you. I don't think someone is born a natural gifted leader. I really believe you can actually develop that skill and become good at it. And I don't really know. I just absolutely loved the sport, number one. So I love the game of rugby. I love the tactical side of it. I love making decisions. I love pressure. I also love making decisions under pressure. I really, really enjoy that. And of course, love being in a team environment. Being part of a team is a privilege, and it's lekker. I mean, I did play a lot of individual sports, and I just kept moving more and more towards team sports as I got older. So that's pretty much. It's difficult for me to say, because you gotta ask the guys.
So I'm going to go into, obviously this is a Cricket Fanatic channel, and I heard that you're a big fan of cricket. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your introduction to cricket and how much cricket did you actually play as a kid?
Yeah, pretty much, throughout my whole schooling. So absolutely love cricket. I mean, I wasn't great at it. Came in the tail end. Used to just hit the singles. Used to finish the innings. Kind of. So I wasn't the greatest batsman, to be honest with you. I was actually pretty scared of batting. Like I used to get so nervous walking up to the crease. Holy moly. That and athletics, I think there's a lot of similarities. Starting a race in athletics is almost the same feeling when you kind of put the pads on and you need to go out to bat. So it was scary to me, and I think that's probably why I came in the tail end. And I was a medium fast bowler, so I was it wasn't too bad. Used to love it, absolutely loved it. And my hero was Jonty Rhodes. Absolutely loved Jonty Rhodes, and I think it was probably a skill set that most intrigued me. Like as a batsman, he used to bring something different. I mean, that his sweep shots were just phenomenal, and then of course in between the wickets, he was just lightning quick. And then we all know, I mean, Jonty is regarded as probably the best fielder that's ever played the game. So. I just absolutely loved him for his all-round athletic ability. He was my hero, and I think cricket was always part of my sporting life growing up. I remember matric. By that time rugby had kind of taken over, but we had a team, the eighth team at Glenwood High School, which was unbeaten.
Well done.
But I will tell you this, we had a couple of guys in there that weren't bad. I mean, we had guys that used to play in the A team pretty much throughout their whole schooling. And when other sports take over, then you don't have as much time. So we formed like an 8th side, but we were dominating. It was such a laugh, but we loved it. Our first team coach was actually the coach, Mr. Hortop, and he was just brilliant. So we absolutely loved it, and I've obviously got a passion for cricket as well.
Yeah, you didn't follow the Rabada and brush a few shoulders with some guys, right?
No, jeepers. I actually stay quite close to St. Stithians, and I know Christo went to Saints. So, I've heard stories of him at school, like jeepers. Guys used to shiver in their boots facing him. So I think if I had to face him even now, I would pass on that one, definitely.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was actually talking about. I don't know if you watched that game against when we played Australia, and Kagiso got banned for brushing shoulders with Steve Smith.
Oh,
So I was asking you about with regards to the physical side of things. You didn't take your rugby back into your cricket games.
no way. Oh my word. No. Gee, but cricket's a gentleman's game, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
And so is rugby, isn't it? It's also a gentleman's game.
Some people say so, yes. So, what I want to ask you about your viewing and viewership. Obviously, you are a cricket fan, so I want to ask you about the time that you spent, obviously, when you were watching cricket. Some of the games that stood out to you. How much did you watch at Kingsmead, and then when you moved over to Joburg, how much times did you go down to Wanderers, and what sort of games stood out to you, and which games stood out to you?
Yeah, so I mean, Kingsmead probably spent less time there than in Kings Park, but did watch a couple games there growing up. And I think the lacquer thing about cricket was the space you had as a kid to run around. And they've got a pretty similar thing here as well in the bull ring, where there's a nice grass patch where you can run. And I think that's the lacquer thing about cricket. You know, the game is a bit longer, and you know, as a youngster going to the cricket you always had a bit more fun because the rugby games were a bit shorter, you know. So I did go to 1 or 2 games there, and I think now recently I actually had the privilege of watching that infamous test matches between Australia and South Africa here at the bull ring. So I actually went to go watch some of those test matches, which was phenomenal, and had the privilege of ringing the bell at the bull ring, which was really, really, really cool. So that really stands out for me, and obviously our performance during that series as well. So I think that stands out for me at the moment. And obviously I've met Kagiso as well, and I think he's just a phenomenal athlete and a brilliant cricket player. Hey, jeepers, he's phenomenal. So I think there's a lot of good youngsters coming out of South Africa at the moment. You know, now with Graham taking over, I think the leadership at the top looks good, and it will run through, I believe.
Yeah, so I tried to find out and I couldn't find out. I wanted to bring some of your buddies that are from the cricket side in. I want to know who were some of your friends that you have in the Lions side, or are there any guys that you hang out with when you do have free spare time?
The cricket guys now, you say that?
Cricket guys, yeah. Yeah.
I've met Kagiso a couple of times. I've met Morne Morkel a couple of times as well. I've met most of the cricketers. Obviously, lucky enough through the box. You know, a lot of the times the Proteas and the box would get together. I remember particularly before the 2015 World Cup, both sides coming together and actually having a braai, and that was pretty cool, because I think the World Cups were at the same time. They were going on at the same time. Yeah. So I've met a bunch of them. I think as professional rugby players, if you talk to the guys, they all rate themselves that they could have been professional cricketers as well. So we've got a lot of guys at the Lions that reckon they would have been able to play for the Proteas as well. So it's quite funny whenever, you know, we get the bat and ball out, because we love playing cricket and soccer. So in the gym, often we'll get a ball and a bat, and we'll bowl and play cricket. Yes, then the banter comes out there, and the guys, yes, they back themselves. It's hilarious until I give Kagiso a call and I tell him to come run up to them. I promise you, that's for sure. But yeah, it's like we love sports, and the banter between the different sporting codes is always really cool.
Cool. And between your hangouts with the Proteas guys, are there any lessons that you learned in conversation with some of them? Anything from a sporting perspective, or something that stood out to you about their mentality or the way they approach the game and stuff?
I think just the resilience, you know, of them in general. I think if you compare the two, cricket in a lot of ways is almost like an individual sport at times, and I think psychologically and mentally, it can be more challenging than say rugby. And I had a lot of respect for cricketers, because, you know, everything is pretty much zoomed on you. Whether you're a fast bowler and you're getting, you know, hit for 3 sixes in a row and you're over, or as a batsman, you've got a crucial role to play within innings where, you know, you've got 50 runs to score 20-odd balls. So I think the pressure within cricket, I've always really admired cricketers for those high-pressure moments and the resilience they show during those moments. And that's stood out for me. And, we've seen that throughout. I think the Proteas have struggled within World Cups, but I do believe that's going to, that will turn around. But they're a phenomenal cricket side, and we've got phenomenal talent within our country.
Yeah, so I'm going to go into the comment section now because there's a lot of comments coming in. And as you know, South Africans love their sport, no matter what it is, cricket, rugby, it's all interchangeable. So I'm going to answer a lot of these questions are actually rugby questions. But let's start with Ravi, and Ravi, who helped me organize this interview. So he said, you've had a superb career thus far. Where to from here? Would you consider coaching, or one might be wearing a jersey once again?
Yeah, so definitely want to coach. A couple of years back, I really wanted to move into coaching, and I started loving the technical aspect of the game and analyzing and opposition, and obviously being captain on the day, being able to implement that on field. It really fascinated me, and I absolutely loved it. And I guess that's where the thought or the idea came in my mind. Yes, I would really love to coach. And during my injury last year, during the Currie Cup, coach Ivan van Rooyen Cash, as we know him, said, look, we need some help with the coaching. Would you be willing to assist? So I was doing my rehab at the time, and I had some free time, and I thought, jeepers, this is definitely a direction I want to go in. And I was privileged to assist during the Currie Cup season, and absolutely loved it. Really enjoyed it. And Rudolph Strali was really supportive as well. And then after the year, still struggling with my injury, I managed to get this opportunity where I am now as the line-out coach doing Super Rugby, which I absolutely love and really enjoying. It is challenging being a coach. I think, as a player, it's, when you get onto the field, you feel like you're contributing, you're playing. As a coach, you almost have to let go. And I think that's the most difficult thing, is going through all that preparation in the week, and then on game day, you got to sit back. And it's something that I've had to get used to. I'll be lying to you if I don't get urges every time the boys play to get onto the field. But I've absolutely loved the teaching and the coaching aspect of the game, and the technical aspect, analyzing opposition. I've really loved it, and just learned so much from our coaches, and still wanting to learn more. So doing a lot of research on different coaches, reading books. There's a lot of webinars at the moment, so trying to go on as many webinars as possible, and just want to be a sponge, during these early stages of my say coaching career, if you wanted to call that, to just try and learn as much as I can.
Okay, that's awesome. And then we have one from Zubair who wants to know, who is the most talented rugby player that you've played with? That's a very difficult one, because you don't really want to leave anybody out. But maybe you can name a few without chopping people's ears off.
Sure. I could probably say talent. Yeah, it's difficult when someone says the most talented, because jeepers, we've got so many players that are talented. But I believe that the difference often is mentally, whether you can convert that talent that you have into onto the rugby field in those high pressure situations. And I mean, there's been so many talented players I've had the privilege of playing with. But I'd say some of the best I've played with at the Lions, if we just talk of the Lions, I think Yaku Kriel is probably one of the top guys I ever played with, and his mental strength is probably something I admire above all. I think mentally the resilience he showed throughout his career, and just his consistency is second to none. I've got a lot of respect for him on and off the field, also what he's gone through during his life. And I think that is the difference, is mental and the mental strength. Talent, jeepers. If you just go on talent, I mean, wow, there are so many brilliant guys in our system at the moment. But mentally, I would say that's what I look out for, also as a coach. I do look for talent, of course. But mentally, I think mental toughness and just your mental resilience is something that's the difference for me.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think the mental game in sport is so important. So the next one also kind of goes with this, but this is about your opponent. So the toughest direct opponent you have played against.
The toughest direct opponent. Again, it's a difficult question because in rugby, you know, in my position as well as a number 8, you don't really have that direct confrontation as in cricket, where you as a batsman are, you know, facing a fast bowler. So I guess some of the best number 8s I've played against is definitely Kieran Reid. If we think internationally, I've got a lot of respect for Kieran Reid and what he's achieved in his career, and then locally, guys like Dwayne Vermeulen, you know, Ryan Kunkowski earlier in my career, Pierre Spies earlier on in my career. Those were guys who were always, you know, abrasive, upfront, and consistent throughout their career. So you knew, you know, regardless of when you play them, they will be good. So yeah, those are guys I really have a lot of respect for in my position.
Yeah, awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about cricket. So with the current situation, you know, obviously we touched on it a little bit, and about Mark Boucher coming into the system, etc., and Graham Smith at the helm at the top, at director of cricket. We're seeing a lot of youngsters coming through the system as well with regards to the cricket. What is your opinion on South African cricket at the moment? Did you watch any of the series against England and Australia, etc.?
Yes. Yeah, I did. And I think, you know, sport in general, everyone goes through ups and downs. And there's, I mean, particularly in South African sport, I mean, you can look at rugby as well. I mean, 3 years ago, we were pretty much down and out, you know, as a Springboks. I remember, just getting loads of messages and people messaging you directly and just telling you, you know, not to play again and you guys are not good enough. And I mean, now with a guy like Coach Rusty and Jacques Nienaber have really turned it around with Sia there as captain. They've just been phenomenal. So once you're, you know, those leadership structures are right and you've got that alignment from top to bottom, I believe that's when things really start happening. And having guys like Mark Boucher and Graham Smith who have played, a guy like Rusty has played for the Springboks, Mark Boucher has played for the Proteas, so has Graham Smith. I believe it gives you an edge. And once you get the right leaders at the top filtering through, you will see that in the performances, I believe. So given some time, I think the Proteas are going to be right back at the top, that's for sure.
Cool. And this is kind of the last one I'm going to take because it kind of ties into the more fun side of this thing. It's what's your favorite pastime? So obviously in lockdown, you'll probably come across a lot of free time to be able to do different types of things. So what's your favorite pastime and what have you been getting up to for fun in lockdown?
So at the moment, it's probably just keeping these kids busy of ours. We've got 2 little ones. So my daughter is 5 and then my son is turning 3 in a month. So, you know, we still working. So we still have our Zoom meetings, coaches meetings, player meetings throughout the day. So my wife is pretty busy with the kids mostly, but then I finish, you know, late afternoon, probably 3 or 4 o'clock. And then I've got the kids for an hour or 2 while she does some work as well. So keeping them busy, I tell you, is a handful, keeps you on your toes. So yeah, really busy with that. And then just, yeah, catching up, you know, on odds and ends. I saw a funny meme go out earlier in the lockdown where they said all those husbands that promised their wives that they'd get to things when there is time. Well, now there's been a lot of time. So I've been trying to get to all those things I promised about a year or 2 ago. I'm trying to get to all those things at the moment.
Yeah, and any TV or Netflix? Because there's a question from Ravi.
We have actually been watching a lot of MasterChef. So my daughter loves MasterChef. And it's a time where we can actually get a little bit of relaxing time when the kids are actually glued to the screen. So we love watching MasterChef. And then we watch Tiger King. I don't know if I should admit that, but we were pretty glued to that. So we kind of binge watched that over a couple of days, which was pretty cool. And then some sporting documentaries as well. There's been some really cool sporting documentaries, some basketball ones, which we've really enjoyed as well. So we've been trying to catch up. We usually don't watch a lot of TV. So I think this has been a bit of a luxury for me and my wife, being able to watch a bit of Netflix at night time.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we have one more cricket one because it's got to do with obviously the Booker, 3-3 in World Cup finals.
Yes.
While the Proteas are obviously bad in knockouts, he said. Any ideas what the Proteas can do to change this? So maybe you can give us an insight, maybe mentally.
Sure. It's so difficult to say. I don't think I really have the right to comment. If I have to be honest with you, I think cricket is sure. It's a challenging sport, and a lot of the time it comes down to individuals and individual brilliance, and we've seen that in World Cups as well. If you think of England now, so sure, I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that. What I can say is with guys like Bouch and Graham, having been players, having been in the system for so long. I just think that leadership brings a whole nother angle to the team. And again, I can only compare to what's happened to the Box with guys like Coach Rassie coming into the system and making a huge difference. I've seen that leadership from him being a Springbok himself, knowing the challenges as a player that he faced, and now obviously being the coach. So I think that is a bit of an advantage, having guys like that within the system. Not saying that as a head coach, if you haven't played professionally, that you can't be brilliant. But I do see that as an edge. If you think of a guy like Gary Kirsten, I mean, he's also a brilliant player who's now a brilliant coach. And I think it does definitely give you a bit of an edge. So having those two, I think, can iron out perhaps some issues over the last 10 or 15 years the Proteas have had. And find solutions, to get the guys to perform consistently within those high pressure situations, like in World Cups, where it's pretty much a one-off.
Cool. And I have a rugby question, actually, surprisingly. Obviously, Faf de Klerk was one of the stars of that World Cup, of us winning that World Cup. Obviously, you played with him a lot, and you know him probably very, very well. So I wanted to ask you, what makes Faf special? Because, I mean, he really came to in his own in that World Cup in Japan.
Yeah, a lot, I think. A lot, hey? So I think
besides the speed, though.
Yes, besides I think he went through so many ups and downs earlier on in his career. And I remember when I first met him, he was at the Lions. I mean, he was still a junior. He didn't get offered a contract. He had to go to the Pumas. And then from the Pumas, he then came back to the Lions. So he really had to fight himself through the system to get an opportunity. So he's extremely resilient. I think mentally, he's also one of those players I have a lot of respect for, who's mentally strong. And he's a character, eh? Jeepers. He's a ball of energy, and he brings a lot of fun and excitement off the field, and you can see that on the field as well. I mean, he backs himself 120%. And you see that when he plays. He won't stand back for anyone, regardless. I mean, he's a little number 9, but I promise you, you can be, Billy Vunipola, and you can run straight at Faf. I promise you now, he's not going to stand back. He's just one of those guys who backs himself 120%.
Okay, last cricket question, and then we're done with this interview. I wanted to ask, Ravi wants to ask you again, which batsman do you enjoy watching the most on the Proteas currently? I know you've mentioned Jonty in the past, but currently,
yes,
which batsman do you enjoy watching that?
Sure, that's a difficult one. I think when Quinny or Quinton de Kock, when he's on form, wow, I don't know. I really enjoy watching him when he's on form and hitting it sweetly. There's not a batsman like him. I remember when Malcolm Marx and Dylan and Carl Brink, because they came from Cares. And when I first met them, and after getting to know them, they'd always tell me stories about Quinton at school. And they told me like the kids would just stream onto the field just to watch him bat and just to see him there. And they told me a couple other interesting stories in the classroom about him as well, which I won't mention now. But remember them telling me how in awe they were already at school level of his talent and how immensely talented he was, and how confident he was in his ability as a batsman. He pretty much backed himself against anyone. And when he's hitting it sweetly, jeepers, there's at this stage there's no better guy to watch, I would say.
Okay, cool, awesome. So thanks a lot, Warren, for the interview and for coming on here on a different platform, different fan, of course. So this was really means a lot to me for you coming here. I just want you to just end off by giving a message to the Cricket Fanatics fans out there.
Yeah, I guess like a rugby fan, because I'm a rugby fan, I guess it is challenging times. We all want to kind of lounge on our couches in the weekend and watch some awesome live sport, and it is challenging during these times. So the only thing I've been doing is catching up on some classics. So if you can catch up on some classic games, I think that kind of keeps the fire burning within you. And then also just to have patience. I think we've seen some moves within the Proteas setup at the moment, and they've all been positive. And I believe it's going to be a positive difference made in the next couple of months and years to come with Bouch and Graham at the helm. So just to stay behind the team. I think as players, you need supporters, you need that base behind you. You can really feel it. Just to get behind the players, get behind the team and support them.
Thanks a lot, Warren. I'll chat to you again. I hope your family stays safe during this period and your kids stay safe during this period, and you do too. And good luck with the rest of the lockdown.
Cheers, Khalid. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Bye.
See you. Bye.